Sveta Romaniuk finds it difficult to talk about what happened the night of September 6, 2012.
What they did was not right. We didn't even have time to save the Bibles.
On a recent morning on the edge of Moscow, 12-year-old Sveta and a handful of her friends held Sunday school on the steps of what used to be the entrance of their church.
I want the people who did this to know I still love Christ, and I'm going to pray for them in our country.
In the early hours that September morning, about 45 men, backed by local Russian police, descended on Holy Trinity Pentecostal Church. Zitkov Maxim attends the church.
I got here around 4 a.m. and saw two large excavators tearing through the church building. The police just stood there and watched the whole thing.
As word spread, other church members like Elena Maltseva and her husband rushed to try to save the church.
I'll never forget the sound of my church being crushed. It was so painful.
Pastor Vasily Romaniuk also tried to stop the men, but it was too late. This is video of him that night.
When I tried to get into the territory, I was stopped by drunk tough guys who introduced themselves as a vigilant group acting on behalf of the city district. They refused to show their IDs and papers.
By 3 a.m., the three-story building was in ruins.
Unfortunately, what we're seeing today is nothing new. For decades, evangelical Christians in Russia have experienced similar or worse.
Holy Trinity Pentecostal Church became registered in the late 1970s while Soviets still ruled. In 1995, the church was forced out of its original building and moved to this site some 45 minutes outside Moscow. The church erected a temporary building but battled authorities over building permits. Pastor Romaniuk wanted to build a bigger, more permanent structure. Authorities refused. For 17 years, the city even prevented the church access to water and electricity. Then in late August 2012, a district official notified Romaniuk that the church was slated for demolition. The brazen attack stunned the evangelical community. Sergei Rakuba runs a Christian ministry in Moscow.
But they've chosen in front of the entire public, in front of the world, in Moscow, in the largest city in Russia, in the capital, just to simply level the evangelical church, making that statement.
Even though the country's constitution clearly states that all religions are equal before the law, the government is often accused of discriminating against citizens who profess faiths other than Orthodox Christianity.
The government and the Russian Orthodox Church view us, evangelicals, as a threat. They see our congregations growing, they see how dynamic our services are, and they're threatened by it.
Vladimir Raikovsky, a leading human rights lawyer in Moscow, says Holy Trinity's property and legal challenges are just part of an emerging pattern against Russian evangelicals.
Bottom line, this is discrimination. This year alone, the government has given the Russian Orthodox Church 200 building permits, and in many cases, the government will help fund the new churches.
And what evangelicals are most concerned about today is the growing influence of the Russian Orthodox Church within the political system. They accuse President Vladimir Putin of tearing down walls between church and state.
Muslims from time to time will face similar challenges in trying to build mosques, but you will never hear of an Orthodox church being bulldozed and ransacked in the middle of the night.
Back on the grounds of Holy Trinity, Romaniuk and the congregation are pressing forward. They're holding weekly services in a large tent next to the demolished church. There are reports the city wants to turn the land into a large sport complex.
I never imagined in my life that I would go through such an experience. But to tell you the truth, I feel emboldened and full of hope thanks to the prayers of Christians around the world.
12-year-old Sveta is also hopeful.
Since this happened, I've been asking God to provide us a new place, a place we can continue to meet and share with others about the love of Christ. I know God will take care of us.
George Thomas, CBN News, Moscow.